Hey there, crew. We got a whole bunch of stationery that just came in this month, and I haven't had a second to open it, so I thought, well, I'll open it with you because I know you like this fun stationery too. We've got inks, we've got pens, we've got stamps, we've got all kinds of fun stuff, so let's go ahead and check everything out. All right, so the first thing we'll take a look at is going to be a new notebook that came from Archer and Olive. This came as a part of their winter collection. Now, this is actually not something I purchased for myself, believe it or not, but I wanted to take a look at it because it's so nice. So this was this little fox and deer outdoorsy looking notebook. This is actually gonna be a present for my wife for Christmas. And she likes the A5 sizes and she likes foxes and kind of this whole deal. So I thought this was super nice. This is also the first time, I guess in a while, that I've seen where they are printing things on top of the faux leather now. So the cover goes all the way around here, which is just really nice. And it just feels really nice and looks really nice and luxurious and looks cool and has this cool little thing on the inside here. So always a big fan of their notebooks. It's been like a #1 for me for all of these years. And now whenever I see something that I like, but maybe isn't necessarily my style, I think, well, who can I get it for? So this is the A5 one from their winter collection, which was super nice. Hopefully my wife likes it. I'm sure she will. I'm going to try to keep everything somewhat themed today as we go through this, and that way I can put some good timestamps as we're going through. So this is technically a notebook, but technically for something different. So this is something I actually saw off of Amazon, and I'll link all this stuff down in the descriptions for you. But if you may not know this, because maybe if you're not on Instagram, but I've been really big into die cutting recently. Got my first little Sizzix sidekick. And as I've been collecting these die cuts, I'm like, but how am I storing these? Like, how am I doing that? So I decided, and I saw this online, which is essentially a storage book, and there's little magnets that fit inside of these page holders here. And so since all of the dies are magnetic, metal in some type of way, they fit right on here. So you can use them if you need to, and then store them away, and they kind of stick together. I mean, you can even like hold it upright like this, and it still sticks on there, which is super cool. So this notebook, it's not going to hold a ton forever and always for me because eventually I'm going to buy more of these than I actually want or need. No, I need them all. But it's really cool that I can expand on this. I can buy more notebooks. There's a bunch of colors that come as a part of this collection. And I'm excited to keep doing it. But just something cool, piece of stationery I bought for myself for some office organization and craft organization, if you're into that kind of thing. All right, let's talk stamps next as we go through this. So when I saw these little Oji-san stamps, I thought, well, I need them for like so many different reasons. They are just the coolest little guys that are inside of here. I think Oji-san actually means like old man. These are all from Midori, and they're just woodblock stamps, which are super nice and little. And I thought this would actually look really cool inside of my bullet journal if I set up like a bullet journal weekly or something like that and can have each one of these guys over here. These came inside of kits. So there is a little box that you can store them in, and it shows you what's on the inside right on the cover if you want to store it that way, or if you keep them out, you can as well. But I also liked it because the little dogs, because I have 2 little Westies. And so I was like, oh, that's kind of like having Ben and Stella on my pages. But also just like super funny little deals. Him flying through the sky, riding a bike, making a coffee, just different things I can add inside of here. And also these are just kind of that black outline. So if I wanted to color them in, I could. What I also really like about woodblock stamps is you only just need an ink pad. You don't need anything else, no acrylic, no nothing like that. And I like how nice and fine lined these are. I didn't get this month, so I didn't include it in here. But if you're the type of person that likes to clean your stamps right away, because I am, this is like a super easy little scrub block. So you just spray your stamp cleaner on here. This one is in the scent of bubblegum, but you can get one that don't have a scent. But you just kind of clean them off and rinse them on the other side, and then you can put your stamp away. And I found this to be a lot easier than some of the other methods, baby wipes and whatnot. And if you're curious about coloring in your stamps, I like to use the click art markers from Zebra because they write really nice and they actually don't smear the ink. So just a fun way to add a little pop of color on your page if you wanted to. All right, the next stamps that I got, these are also from the Archer and Olive Winterscapes collection. So the same as the notebook that we got before. I've been collecting Archer and Olive stamps as long as they've been putting them out. I think I have every single one, I think. Maybe one or two I didn't if there was something that really wasn't kind of shouting to me. But these are really cool. All of their kits now come with an acrylic block and they come with an ink pad as well. If I'm being honest with you, I'm a little tired of getting the ink as well as the acrylic block anytime that I buy one of these stamps. I wish they would just lower the price a little bit and just allow you to get the stamps, but buy the ink and the acrylic block if you want to. Because at this point, I have this many acrylic blocks and this many stamps that I'm just not going to use. Like, personally, I'm a bigger fan of VersaFine. It just does more of what I want with it. But anyway, that aside, I really like the stamps that were inside of this. You've the mountains and you've got the snow and the penguin and a lot of these fun things. I really like the snowflakes. I thought this would look really cool. Some of the radial stamp patterns that I do with things. But these I can definitely use, and I can use them throughout the year. Like, yes, the wreaths and some of the snowflakes are very winter, but sometimes you want to grab a mountain or some trees or something like that. And I've been cataloging all of my stamps so I can find them easily inside of Airtable. So if I want to find the trees or the mountains, I'll have photos of them and can use them and do it that way. But overall, just really like the way they looked and had to get them. All right, the next stamps I want to share with you are new to me. Kelly Bradford Studio makes these. I actually saw these with my buddy Matt over on Desktop Nerd. He shared one of her stories that showed all of these amazing stamps, and I just had to have them. And they're giant and they're great. And they kind of do everything that I need them to do. I'm very picky now about the stamps that I'm getting. It has to be something I really love. So she had this beautiful Millie font that's on here that just looks so cool. And it comes with multiple letters so you can write out words, which is super important. I love the way the "and" looked. Like, the font on this one was just amazing. I had to have it. This is all the days of the week. Y'all know how I love my weekly spreads. So this was just like kind of a stacked font, which looks super cool. We had these big, huge blocks for the months, both kind of a abbreviated version and then the longer versions here. Also the days of the week here too. Again, all useful and super functional. This one I loved because it spells out all of the different numbers. So everything 1 through 31 is on here. We've got like good times. And the years, while this obviously is not kind of important, all of this is super important here because I can still use it. So one of those things with like 2 out of the rest of these aren't working out for me, I'm going to be okay with that. And then there's also a block of the year. So even though 22 and 23 are not necessarily it now, here's 25 through 28 and in smaller versions too. I loved these so much that I actually used them inside of my bullet journal. A little sneak peek. I'm still working on the editing of this one, but used it up here for all of the months. And then I used that Millie font inside of here for all of my pieces too. So I was able to set them all up on my acrylic blocks and spell out the words that I needed, and they're all in here. And I love the way it looks. It has like a comic book feel to it, but very much fits my aesthetic. Also, technically not stamps, but these are really cool. If you've never seen these before, maybe you have and you weren't quite sure what it is. These are rub-on transfer sheets. So similar to stickers or tapes, you can put these onto your papers. But what's cool is they all usually come with like a popsicle stick, or I've been using them so much I actually bought an actual tool for it. And what you do is you actually cut these out similar to stickers or kind of a sheet of anything, and you lay it down on your notebook or whatever you're doing, and then you use the popsicle stick or you use the tool and then you rub it onto the pages. So to show you an example, I actually use them inside of my bullet journal. So I was able to put them right on here. And what's cool is they like don't come up like a sticker. They are ever so slightly just raised, just like a little tiny bit, but they're pressed onto the page and they work so nicely. And this is just one of those cool things where like you see them and you're not quite sure how you would use them. But for straight color swatches, like you just saw for days of the week, they're actually pretty cool. Also from Joann's, which is from their clearance rack, were these die cut stickers. So I like making die cuts. I like stickers. And I thought, well, these are already kind of cool. So these come in a bunch of different packs here. And I thought they were just very neat because, well, they look like little stamps and they don't have just, sayings on them. Moving along has the elephant on them. You have the armadillo, what's the dealie, I thought was pretty funny. Birds of a feather, bear with me. All just fun ones that I think I'll use inside of my bullet journal. Headers, kind of fun things to stamp on real quick. It's all a lot of fun. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the ink section of today. So we have 3 things that I got that are ink leaning. Obviously fountain pen ink, both from Archer and Olive, as well as from Jacques Herbin. But what I'm most excited about, like I am excited about these inks, don't get me wrong, but this is brand new from Ferris Wheel Press. I got this through Atlas Stationers, but you can also buy it over on Ferris Wheel Press's website as well. This is an ink carriage, but it's for the smaller ink bottles. So for these little ones here, the little 20 milliliters, they're made for this and they sit right inside of here. And what's cool is that you can kind of lean it a little bit if you want to dip your pen inside of here if you need to. I've also been seeing people spin them on here as well if they have any type of shimmer inside of there and you want to give it a little twirl as you're using it. I already have a bunch of these, but these are the same size, but for the 38 milliliters, and they just hold on to them very nicely and look very cool. But this one, I just absolutely love. It just looks so cool. It looks like one of those like big globe holders, but it's obviously very tiny. But it's just the little details inside of here that I really liked. And I want to collect more of these. I think they look very cool. I guess technically I only need one if you're only using one ink at a time, but just the way they look is so cool. So I had to get it when they came out with it and just popped it in my cart. All right, so next we'll go ahead and take a look at this ink. This is a Turquoise de Paris from Jacques Herbin. Hopefully I'm saying that the right way. This is the first one of these type of inks that I have in my collection. It's this beautiful turquoise color, and it has some nice gold shimmer in the bottom of it. But I don't even want to open it. Look how cool this is with the wax seal on here and everything else. But of course I'm going to open it because we got to swatch. We got to make sure that it looks as cool as it did online when we saw it. Unscrew that. Oh, cool. I got nervous that it was going to be like an actual wax seal that I'd have to break, but I didn't. So that makes me very happy. We'll use my little ink muddler that I have here. I'm a little bit sad because I just found out the other day that I accidentally chipped the tip of this one. I mostly use this ink muddler for this side of things to get ink samples, but I was real sad the other day when I noticed that. I've been really big into inks that have some shimmer inside of them, but that are not like so overly loaded with them, just because it doesn't work with all pens and I like to use them in different pens. But I thought the color was absolutely beautiful. Love the way it looks. And then you do get just a nice little shimmer on this a little bit as you're writing with it. Of course, I'm doing a large swatch here and using a pretty big size nib for writing. But if you were using something a little bit more fine, you get little flakes of that versus it being heavier in there. But just thought it was so beautiful, so cool looking. And then we'll go ahead and we'll check out the new colors that came from Archer and Olive as part of that Winterscape collection. I love that they're playing more with fountain pens and fountain pen inks and doing that. So we have an amethyst, a jasper, and an indigo. So we have some very nice colors here. Love the way that these are nice and dark. The jasper looks so cool, one of my favorites, and even this indigo too. So they all look very cool on here. Now on the website, when they were promoting this, these colors on the Archer and Olive paper were like very feathered. So I went ahead and just tried it out on this paper just to see, and I'm using different pens. I'm using the glass dip pen. This is using a B6 nib. And then I also just use my TWSBI fountain pen, which is a nice, like fine, extra fine. And the hard part about it is that like sometimes you do see the feathering, sometimes you don't. So it's a little inconsistent. And you can always blame it in how much ink you're even putting on the paper, but that's typically where you're going to see more of that feathering happening. Versus when I'm just using my TWSBI fountain pen, which has an extra fine nib, you don't have it at all. So that's why it's always just a little bit difficult when people are like, fountain pen inks don't work in Archer and Olive notebooks. Like when you're writing really big, sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But anytime I'm using a fine tip pen, I never seem to have an issue. So it's kind of hit or miss, but still love the colors. I still have no problem with it inside of my journals. So that was all the ink. Now let's talk about some of the fountain pens I got. I'm really excited about these because as I've been checking out new stuff recently, I've just been trying to find like new things versus the same old and diversifying my catalog. So the first one we have here is Monteverde. This is the MP1 fountain pen, coal gray, and I got this one in an OmniFlex nib. So this pen is a bit interesting because it's like right in between like really nice and fancy and still just kind of not being like overly fancy. I don't really know where to place it in like that luxury versus like inexpensive pen brand. But nonetheless, I got it for a few reasons. I think the main reason, first of all, I really did like the color. It's just a coal gray color. But what's really cool about this one, and we'll see here, it is another one of the piston fills. I've been using these a lot more recently and liking it. But if you've ever felt nervous about your piston turning while it's in your pocket, the MP1 has a locking mechanism. So you pull on the back here, and that allows you to push your piston down and then lift it back up to draw the ink up inside of it. And then when you're ready to be done with that, you press it to lock it in, and then you don't have to worry about this turning. I don't know how much of an issue that is for anybody. The other reason I got this is because of our nib here. So this is an OmniFlex nib. So what's cool about this one is that it's a little different than like everything else out there. Essentially what OmniFlex is instead of it just being kind of your straight kind of monoline regular line, if you press down on it a little bit while you're writing with it, you get the thicks and the thins with this one without it being like too much like a calligraphy nib. So if I just write normal hello without putting down a lot of pressure, that's what it looks like. But if I do give it a little bit of pressure, then that's what it looks like. So a lot of different variation with this pen, and excited to have it as a part of my collection. All right, next item up. It's a new pen from Narwhal. I'm excited about this one because, well, first of all, it was on clearance because it is part of a Halloween collection that they had, but that doesn't matter to me. You don't have to only use an orange pen when it's Halloween, but I like that it had a little bit of fun to it with some of this little shimmer, but it's not like overly shiny, and for a guy like me, that's really cool. The other part of this pen I love is that this is a vac pen. So you may have seen this in a handful of other pens that we've had. It's been something I've been collecting a lot more of recently, actually. So you unscrew the back, this little vacuum thing comes up. When you press this down and it makes it to where this line is, boop, it sucks the ink up inside of it. So filling these pens is really nice and easy. Then you just go ahead and you screw that down and then you're good to go to write with it. Now this one I got in a broad nib, so that's gonna be a little bit of a bolder nib versus the extra fine, just because I want to, like I mentioned, diversify my pens. I wanna have some extra broad, some stub nibs, not just everything fine and extra fine. But very excited about this one. Eventually gonna fill this one up. I gotta find a good ink. Like what goes well with an orange pen other than like orange ink? I'll have to find something cool. All right, and the last fountain pen that we're going to take a look at today, this one is from Gravitas Pens. Dun, dun, dun. Let's get in closer for this one. So Gravitas, beautiful makers of pens. When you take a look at this, this isn't just like your average everyday pen. And what I love about these is that I've been able to watch these pens from idea through execution, because Gravitas post all the time about their production, how they go in and design pens and do that. So this is their ultimate vac, and this is a fine nib that we have on here. The detailing on this is all super nice. You've got this beautiful metal, and this is another vac pen, same exact deals we just looked at. And funny enough, kind of close in at least somewhat of the colors that we're looking at. But when you talk about like price of pens, right? This one is a little up there. It's almost $200 versus this one was under $75. And I'm only comparing this not to say one pen is better than the other, but I just like to show this because it does kind of show you the difference between when a pen costs, $200 versus, $55, $60 or something like that. You're just getting different quality of makes. And while again, the pens may do the same exact thing at the end of the day, the make, the quality, all those things make a really big difference. And what I also liked about it too, they also sent this pen holder too, which was super nice. Got kind of a keychain deal on it. Fits inside, and every time I take a nice pen with me, whether it's in my backpack or not, it always comes along with. All right, we're gonna move on from fountain pens, but we do have two different types of pens that we're gonna talk about. So the first ones that I have here, this was one of those TikTok influence buys that I made. So these are from Pentel, and they're called Matte Hop, and they're just gel pens. They come in like a bunch of different colors, but the reason I got them is that they're like more vibrant than a lot of other gel pens are. And my favorite part of this, right, is when you're writing with it, is like the magic of watching it like become more matte. And just over like a few seconds, like especially on the black paper, it starts off like very light and then it just starts to like come to. So all of them are super nice like this. And they come in a bunch of different colors. And I think my favorite part really was just the fact that they look great on all the different paper colors. But I just loved this, like as it like dries and it just becomes more vibrant. So if you're the type of person that likes to use gel pens, especially if you have like blackout papers and stuff like that, you're always looking for the gel pen that's gonna like do its best job. And I really felt like these were it. All right, and the last pens we're going to take a look at today are from Curvapen. So if you've never seen these pens before, you're going to really love them. So they are fine liner pens, and they're not just for lefties, but like they're especially cool for lefties because this is what the tips of the pens look like. They're like a little dentist tool is what they look like to me. You never want to drag your hand across the paper. So essentially what it does is it kind of gives distance between where you're writing and where your hand's going across. So I can write on this line without being super close and potentially pulling across the page. Just for comparison, right? You see me writing with this up on this line. This is how far away my hand is from here. But if I'm writing with another fine liner, I have to be even closer, right? Like I'm right up on that. So again, it has nothing to necessarily do with like how it writes, because it writes just like any other fine liner. I'm not going to make it sound like it's anything extra, but it's just the fact that you're this far away and it gives you more space to allow you to do what you want to do without worrying about smearing ink anywhere on the pages. They also have upped the size of these to hold even more ink. So if you're using these a lot, which once you start writing with them, it's hard not to, you have plenty of ink to hold you over as well. So we had a lot of fun stuff that we went over today, inks and pens and stamps and all kinds of stuff. And I'd love to hear from you down in the comments what you liked from here, if anything really stood out, or if you have any other questions about any of the stationery. I'm a big stationery collector and I use it as well. So if you're ever looking for any recommendations or curious about more questions about what we saw today, definitely let me know. I'll talk to you next time, friends. See ya.